This is a video about Project 2025. It was written by the Heritage Foundation. If you don't know what it is, it's basically this presidential transition plan that's absolutely psychotic. These are training videos that they never expected to go public, but they're now public. So let's listen to these training videos and the things that they have to say when they think no one is listening. This isn't part one. If you didn't see the other, don't sweat it. The sins independently of the rest. I'll give context if it's missing. And while we listen, we're going to play some Tears of the Kingdom. Should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much. You never played before. This is, this video specifically, this training video is about code words and how the left is like co-opting co-opting code words and how you, as a political appointee, should change those code words to be more favorable to your side, to represent what you want more. So they're complaining about the left doing something and then doing it themselves, basically, is what's happening here.
I know you have so much experience in the history of your professional life in dealing with this. Where are we today?
Yeah, the woman on the right was in the Trump administration. I'm sure I don't need to say it, but the left is not like creating code words and language or whatever. This is something that's like in Republicans' heads.
On this issue and the language and the words and the definitions.
Let's talk about the word gender. The word gender is no longer a polite way to refer to biological sex.
It's not polite? What are you talking about? No, it's inaccurate. What do you mean it's not polite? Gender is the mental expression and sex is the physical expression, as far as I understand it. And that's just like how words work. Like, I'm not saying something that's revolutionary and new and impossible to understand or whatever. Like, what?
The word now is completely toxic. It's no longer being used to mean male or female.
What are you talking about? The word is toxic? Gender's toxic? Who said this? Who told you this?
But now how people identify, which is where we get this idea of gender identity. Katie, did you know that there are between 72 and 1,000 different kinds of gender? We should never use...
Okay, let me just lay this out for you. I'm on the left. I believe in people's rights to do everything that they want to do. I support trans people to the absolute death, like all the way to my dying breath. I am about as left-wing as these people could imagine, pretty much, probably, without being like communist. I'm as left-wing as you get while still being a capitalist, basically. I'm very left-wing on social issues. So as a left-winger, let me tell you this. I understand that gender is the mental expression of, I guess, sex or whatever, but sex and gender are linked. They're just like sometimes they are kind of disconnected from each other on occasion. And I personally, I'm not sure that I believe in 100 genders, and I don't believe that I've ever met anybody that is. I'm not saying that people aren't or that they don't believe in this. I'm sure there are people out there that accept 100 genders or whatever. I just haven't seen any, I just don't have any reason to believe that right now. I accept that people are men, women, and non-binary. I've seen that unequivocally and without question. However, that being said, A, I'm willing to be convinced otherwise. B, I'm not going to be a shithead to anybody because that's just not who I am, and I don't think anybody should just be a shithead for no reason by, claiming that they're mentally ill or some other shit like that. It's just complete fabricated nonsense. And C, let people do what they want. That's what freedom's all about. People can live their lives without being forced into a box, without being tied down to your specific way of life. That's part of letter B, don't be a shithead. People like this just can't seem to get a grip on it. So, that being said, as somebody on the left, I don't currently agree with the ridiculous caricature that they're drawing of the left, where everybody on the left thinks that blah, 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 whatever. This can be kind of a sensitive subject. Going into it, I'm just going to lay this down. I support you in absolutely anything. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, which how would trans people hurt other people? They're not. I support you 100%. In whatever journey you've got going on, I will stand behind you. I will support you through this Republican insanity, whatever other crazy shit they have happening. I will support you through it. No questions asked. And Number two, I'm willing to be convinced of anything. All you have to do is give me a moral argument. If we have a different like moral standard, or you think I'm doing the wrong thing, all you have to do is convince me of that, and boom, I flip on a dime. And B, I am willing to be convinced of anything scientifically. If you give me evidence of absolutely anything, or give me reason to think it, like even psychology. Psychology is not like a hard science, like something that you can experiment with in the same way. So I'm willing to go down the psychological road, like whatever. Just give me a reason to think it. And boom, just like that. After the preamble, I don't think there's anything more than man, woman, and non-binary. In fact, I didn't even accept non-binary for a long time, but I've talked to a lot of non-binary people and asked them about like their experiences and things, and I'm pretty confident in, I'm confident that it is real. It's a real experience that people have. They're not faking it or whatever. So, as somebody on the left, I disagree with the caricature she's drawing up here. This is the point. My debate point was and is: one does not get to tell another person who they are. They tell you. 100%. Absolutely. And if somebody wanted me to call them anything, I would, because that's me not being a shithead. See how that works? It's like Republicans have like built their entire brand off of just being shitheads. Like this is their whole bit. They just love doing this. Why? Why are they like this? All that being said, I don't think that society is in a place right now where we can use non-traditional pronouns like Z or Zer or whatever. Society's not there. And fighting that battle is fraught and, in my opinion, not helpful to the movement. You can do that with your family or whatever, but trying to convince other people that are not like part of this movement or world or experience or whatever, that's just not happening. It's like trans people being in sports. Like, whether I want that or not, it's just not happening right now because there'd be too much outrage over a win, no matter what, even if it was a fair win, which, there have been many fair wins from trans people. It doesn't matter. It's just never going to be accepted by general society. That being said, I think that they as a singular pronoun is totally doable. Anyway, there's a lot here. This is a whole area of study, I understand, gender theory or something like that. And like I said, I'm willing to be convinced of anything. You just got to lay it out for me. That's it. And to this point, I don't think anybody's ever laid it out for me. I think I've only ever like read about this stuff. Anyway, I just want to lay that out before walking into this conversation. The caricature that they're drawing up is completely fictitious. Like, there may be some people who like believe in this and will like burn you to the ground if you don't agree or whatever, but I've truly, honestly never met somebody who's ready to burn somebody to the ground for not understanding or for disagreeing with this. Like, I don't think I've ever met anybody who uses Z or Zer. No, I've never met anybody that does that. I met somebody once who claimed to be what would you like plural? Their pronouns were we and us, which doesn't affect me at all because I would still use like they, them, just like regular common pronouns. It wouldn't affect me in any way, but it's how they viewed themselves, I guess. Again, like, I'm not convinced that was real in their head, but they tell me, and I'm not going to be a shithead, and I don't have to do anything differently to just be a normal person, so that's what I'm going to do. See how that works? There is dissociative identity disorder, but that's something that people misunderstand a lot, and you can tell when somebody misunderstands it and thinks it's something else than what it's actually defined as in the literature, and then claim to have DID. Anyway, the point is that this isn't like mental illness. This is just people like being people, and that's how it is. And acting like a shithead for no reason is unacceptable. Like, there's no reason for that.
Now is completely toxic. It's no longer being used to mean male or female, but now how people identify, which is where we get this idea of gender identity. Katie, did you know that there are between 72 and 1,000 different kinds of gender?
Why'd she say between 72 and 1,000? Why didn't she just like lay out a specific number if the left is so unified on this subject? If everybody on the left agrees that there are like 1,000 different genders, then why didn't she say that? Because it's fabricated. This isn't like a super common standard belief among Democrats or whatever. This is a subset of people at best. And honestly, I think this may only be like a TikTok trend. I don't believe I've ever met anybody like this in my life. As a tech writer, I use singular they. However, editors correct it to his or her. For that, I rewrite the sentence so I don't use either pronoun. Interesting. Yeah. I understand that the correct, technically correct thing was switching off his or her if you don't know the gender. It's interesting. I know that they as a singular pronoun is not technically correct, but it's getting there, and it should be technically correct. I don't see why not. We use it singularly all the time anyway, like when we don't know who this person is, for example. Again, I'm non-binary. Someone asked me how many genders there were. I'd say, I don't know, at least one, right? Yeah, exactly. Something else to keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is astroturfed. So, for example, the health at every size movement didn't exist, or well, all right, let me rephrase. The health at every size movement was blown completely out of proportion by General Mills and Kellogg investing money in getting doctors to claim that if your body's telling you that you want to eat another jelly donut, then you should eat another jelly donut. You can be healthy at 600 pounds. There's no like limit to that. And if you believe that you aren't healthy at 600 pounds, then it's because you've been lied to or whatever. Weight and health are not correlated. That's the idea behind the health at every size movement. It's fake. Nobody actually believed that, at least, like previously, until 4chan came in and blew it up. And second, until the cereal industry, like Kellogg and General Mills, put a ton of money into blowing this up, into like making it a huge meme that people actually believed. And now there are really people out there that believe it. Sigmund Freud's nephew did the same thing with bacon and eggs for breakfast. He ran a propaganda campaign for farmers around him. He went to like 100 doctors and asked them, would you attest to the fact that eggs and bacon are good for you in the morning? And they said, sure, why not? Doesn't hurt anything. A few of them said that anyway. So he'd say, these 20 doctors say that like bacon and eggs are healthy for you in the morning, and orange juice. You should be getting your bacon and eggs from these people. It's just a big propaganda campaign. It's exactly what happened with health at every size. And there are a number of other kind of movements, social movements, that were created in the exact same way to make the left look weird. When we don't have to stand behind these things, we can accept that they're fictitious and most likely a creation of the far right. If people can accept the royal we, why not accept they as singular? Yeah, I think they should definitely be used singularly. With all that out of the way, let's listen to this woman.
We should never use the word gender as conservatives. It's not specific and it's nonsensical. Instead, use the word sex or biological sex or male and female.
It's super interesting. See, they're trying to control language right now. You catching this, right? Accusing the left of using language to their benefit or whatever, while they are actually using language to like propagandize and lie to people. That is so interesting. I mean, this is kind of the Republican strategy overall, isn't it? Like, accuse the left of doing something as the pretext for you to do that thing. If people think that, if people are outraged enough about the left lying to them, then they will accept it when you do. It's just absurd.
And I don't care where you are in the administration, you will deal with the word gender. Speaking of sex, the next phrase that we're going to talk about is sex assigned at birth. Now, I just told you to use the word sex, and you may think that sex assigned at birth, that sounds great. Well,
yeah, I think the way that I think the generally accepted term, Look, there are some scientific terms that go in papers, and there are some colloquial terms that people use. And birthing person, I understand, is like a scientific description for scientific reasons. No, I've never met a single human being who ever uses that in casual conversation. However, I think that the generally accepted term that's used nowadays is assigned female at birth or assigned male at birth or whatever.
Actually, it's not. It's the left's attempt to change biological fact and to try to normalize their belief that biological sex can change. Unfortunately, many folks, including solid conservatives, have accepted this and don't understand the danger in using this term. In fact,
It's dangerous to use that term. Okay.
some conservatives have even taken this term and changed it slightly, gender as revealed at birth. The left is infiltrating our conservative organizations, Christian schools, and even churches. We
Really? Churches and Christian schools are talking about like the non-binary community or something? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Really?
must always be on guard. And when a new term is introduced, ask, what is the genesis for this new term and why was it introduced? If you see the term sex assigned at birth, delete it and replace it with biological sex.
They're weaponizing language here. These terms have existed in like law and stuff for a very long time. These people are actively, intentionally trying to go out and change it to work to their benefit more. These people are trying to like manipulate language and accusing the left of doing it.
Next issue under gender is pronouns. Don't fall into the progressive left's trap in regard to pronouns. Don't use them in email signature blocks.
Okay. I think it's actually regarding pronouns, if you want to get technically correct here. The best kind of correct. But okay. You know, maybe what she said could be considered correct. Anyway, you shouldn't be using pronouns at all, huh? Never? Not in, like, group conversations or anything? So what are people supposed to call you? They? This is such a ridiculous joke. These people are so obsessed with, like, owning the libs that they will do it to their own detriment. If singular they is against rules, I'm breaking. Right? Yeah, I understand it's against the rules, but I don't think anyone really cares because it's so common. Why do I have so many Germans in my chat? Are they, like, trying to take me over or something, waiting until I look like I'm weak and possible to usurp, and then striking at the opportune moment? Is that what's happening? Dude, how many Germans do I have? We've got another Gorka hiding from Orange Hitler. Yeah, you guys are hiding from Orange Hitler, right? That's funny. Anyway, all right, let's continue with these poor fools.
LinkedIn, and absolutely do not ask people what their pronouns are on your first day on the job.
Dude, are you kidding me? How are you supposed to refer to them if you don't know what their pronouns are? This is just them being shitheads right here. This is like a question that's important to know the answer to. You should know what your coworkers' pronouns are, right? They are dead set on just being shitheads. And this is a quick way to get fired from your job. But they know, the people who are producing this, I mean, these people know that if they spread the practice of being a shithead, then it will no longer be considered shithead behavior to the degree that it is.
When I was at USAID, managers were giving training and were told that when they have new staff or have a staff meeting, they should go around the room and ask everyone what their pronouns are. Katie, if that happened to you, what would you do?
This honestly sounds exactly like a Jehovah's Witness, what do you call it? Like God, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know, like video that they show their people to teach them how to act and stuff. It sounds just like it. This is a high control group, Trump extremists.
I think political appointees, Bethany, great question, need to expect that they are going to be tested by career staff the day they walk in. So that question, every political appointee should be prepared to deal with and answer, whether...
Bro, nobody gives a shit what you are, okay? No one is testing you. Get your head out of your ass. No one cares what you think or do or believe. As long as you can do the job like everybody else, no one else cares. That's the problem, though. These people are trying to, like, work their political ideology into every facet of their lives, including their job, and believe that everyone else is doing the same when they're not. People are just living their lives, okay?
It's in a training. I don't think it'll take that long. It probably will be the first couple days on the job. So a political appointee is empowered. They are empowered because they are absolutely put in the position, whatever level it is, in order to implement the president's agenda. And that is the business of a political appointee and should be the business of all federal employees. So the answer is simple. We're here to implement the president's priorities and agenda. We are not here to discuss pronouns.
The next topic
I mean, you still have to communicate with people, right? So you kind of are there to discuss pronouns, at least for the first 30 seconds.
is gender affirming care. Gender affirming care and what the Biden administration is promoting is absolutely infuriating, especially as for parents. We need
Why? People can't, like, God, I'm sorry, this just pisses me off. All right, I'm not going to interrupt. Let's listen.
care, and what the Biden administration is promoting is absolutely infuriating, especially as for parents. We need to be protecting our children from these harmful, sterilizing puberty blockers.
That's a lie. Puberty blockers do not sterilize anybody. They're completely benign. They don't hurt anybody or do anything negative at all. They just delay puberty. And you know what? Like, I was reading this book last night about Germany during World War II, like, you know, the Christian church and all that stuff. And, you know, I think that Germany had something like 1 or 2% Jews, right? There's almost no Jews. And of the Jews that were in Germany, even fewer had converted to Christianity. And that was like the basis for the entire argument in the German church. Should Jews who converted to Christianity be allowed to, like, be a part of the church still? Should that be okay? And the Reich Church and the Catholic Church kind of fought this battle. They argued, the Reich Church anyway, the Protestants in the area argued, no, non-Aryans should not be allowed to be a part of the church. And there was just this big split. Anyway, the German government, I think in 1935, so a couple years after shit really hit the fan, the German government wanted the Reich Church to provide a list of all Jewish musicians, like church musicians that were hired by the churches to play the organ or whatever. And out of 10,000 musicians, so 10,000 churches, we're talking millions of people. Out of 10,000 musicians, I think 14 of them were affiliated with the Jewish community in some way. Like, one of them had like 2 or 3 Jewish grandparents or something like that, but their family had like moved away from it entirely. It's an issue that affects almost nobody, but they still wanted to weed it out, and they still acted like it was this big thing, like this huge problem that was pervasive and spreading across the land. It was nuts, dude. This is a non-existent issue. Just step back, listen again.
Administration is promoting is absolutely infuriating, especially as for parents. We need to be protecting our children from these harmful, sterilizing puberty blockers.
This whole puberty blocker thing, these people pretend that, like, this is an issue that affects, like, millions of people. Like, Matt Walsh even said a while back that it was, like, millions of kids that are affected by puberty blockers.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what.
I think he's talking about puberty blockers here.
I don't think we have exact numbers, but if we're talking about the drugs, millions.
Yeah, puberty blockers.
You're talking about hormone blockers.
Yeah.
Millions of kids have been on hormone blockers, really?
The answer is no.
I'm sure someone's going to fact check me on that, but my guess is that we're into the millions now at this point. Yeah, that would be my guess.
I mean, this dude did like a full documentary about this subject, and he doesn't know how many people this affects. That would be the first thing that I searched when I was looking for information on this subject. The very first thing. How is he so... this is obvious now, right? That he's just looking for an opportunity to, like, demonize people. Looking for a reason to hate people. And it's not about trying to save anybody. It's about getting people whipped into a blood frenzy over some stupid shit.
I can say for double mastectomies, the most I read a report recently that
it's removing breasts or breast tissue.
There were over 1,000 done between 2016 and 2019, and when you compare that to how many,
well, okay, no, we're talking about kids, right? So how many double mastectomies were there on kids? Grown adults can make their own decisions. I mean, kids can make decisions for themselves too, to some degree, but he shouldn't have any complaints about adults doing this, like literally zero. And aside from that, I don't think that this is even a real number. And is he even sure that this isn't the result of like cancer treatment or something?
Done between, 2008 and 2015, it's a massive increase. And over 1,000 girls had gender affirming double.
Over the course of like 8 years? Is that what he said? 2008 to 2016? He said thousands over 8 years. Are you serious right now? Out of 330 million people? This is like the German musicians thing. Out of 10,000 musicians, millions of people, I think originally the estimate was 7, but it turned out to be like 14. 14 people were somehow connected to it in some roundabout way. And the German government is losing their shit over it. Get a grip on reality.
Gender affirming double mastectomies in that time frame.
And when you say girls, you're talking about prepubescent?
Right. Minors. And that's...
Whoa. Those are different. Joe Rogan said prepubescent, and Matt Walsh changed the conversation to minors. When he says minors, he means under 18 years old. So you're telling me that, like, the implication is that 8-year-olds are getting double mastectomies. How could prepubescent kids even get double mastectomies? They don't have breasts to cut off. Are you kidding me with this? There is literally no logic to be found in this whole conversation.
Just up until 2019, and then we know that there's been this exponential increase with all this stuff year over year. So it's a lot. It's too many. Having this happen to one kid is way too many.
Like, this whole thing is a lie.
A lot more than one.
Yeah. And look, if you're an adult and you want to do that and you understand who you are and what you are, and
remember, he said millions, right?
This is how you feel you should progress. You're an adult. This is a free country. You should be able to do whatever you want. But when you're talking about doing...
Okay, wow. That's not something that Matt Walsh agrees with, actually. So he's kind of barking up the wrong tree here.
You're an adult. This is a free country. You should be able to do whatever you want. But when you're talking about doing that to children, the fact that so many people are on board and so many people are angry, if you have, like, people are going to be angry at us that we're having these conversations.
Like, I'm not angry they're having that conversation. I just think they're fucking idiots. They're uninformed fucking idiots. I don't like insulting people, but, and that's an insult. It was an insult. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. But it's also factual in addition to being an insult. These people have no fucking clue what they're talking about. And they're saying it with such confidence. It's so scary. I was reading this book on stream about the German Evangelical Church, right? The German Evangelical Church, that's what it was called. The word in German was evangelisch, I think. And it was kind of interchangeable with Protestant in some cases. But it was a denomination of Lutheran. And there were some Reformed... some Reformed Christian churches. They were like Calvinist or whatever. Somebody in my comments, when I've been calling it the German Evangelical Church because that's what this book calls it. In fact, every book I've ever read on this subject has always referred to it as the German Evangelical Church, always. Some dude comes in to my comments section and bitches me out for calling it that. Dude says, Protestants are not evangelicals. Sorry, I stopped watching when you said something so stupid and ill-informed. The German Protestants were the ones who led the Reformation in the 16th century. It was led initially by Martin Luther and later by John Calvin. Like, I didn't know that? He has no clue how much research I've done into this subject over the past year. It's ridiculous how much. This is like the first thing you learn about, okay? Literally, like, this is where it all started, but okay. So he's telling me about literally the first thing that you learn about when going down this subject. Martin Luther and by John Calvin. I cannot listen to a dumb American calling them evangelicals, and I'm an atheist. I bet. Totally an atheist, right? The Reformation, learn about it. So confidently incorrect, it eats me up inside. I said, brother, it was called the German Evangelical Church. That was its name. That's how it was referred to. Evangelisch. Oh my God. And he says, the EKD, or Evangelical Church in Germany, was founded in 1948. What the f*** are you talking about? Is this like some specific little denomination that existed in 1948? No. The Evangelical Church, God, I mean, it's existed for like a really long time. Included Lutherans and Reformed Church members. And it really, I feel like it really got its name in like the early 30s. It was the German Reich Church, or the Evangelical Church, is the name of a federation body of Protestant churches. No fucking shit. If he had literally listened for 15 more seconds, I said that in the video. This is entirely different from evangelical Christians like Billy Graham. No fucking shit. Billy Graham wasn't even preaching at the time. Well, I don't know. That dude's really old. Maybe he was. Okay, 1937. Yeah, I guess he was preaching around that era. Anyway, stating the most obvious shit, like German Evangelical Church 101, or just like regular church 101, like history of the church, and acting like I'm an idiot for not knowing it. This is entirely different from evangelical Christians like Billy Graham. It's like thinking North Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, is a democracy, or that the National Socialist Party were socialists. Okay, so he's backed off of claiming that I am referring to the German Evangelical Church when it wasn't called the Evangelical Church. He's backed off of that and backed into it was called that, but that's not what it was. Well, fucking obviously, I never said it was the same as like American evangelicals. Having a word in a name doesn't necessarily define that thing. I never said it did. Especially when it is only the name of a federation of Protestant churches, some of which existed 500 years before the EKD. Yeah, I know. I said, you have no idea what you're talking about. It sounded like he stated something incorrectly with complete confidence to start with. And I said, you're incorrect. And then he went and like researched it and found that he was in fact incorrect, and found a basis for claiming that he was correct all along when he was incorrect the whole time. That's what it seems like to me. The point is that people are so confident in their incorrectness. It's disturbing. I never want to be like that. Never. Like Matt Walsh, or like that dude, or anybody else like this. I feel like it's so important to say I don't know when you don't know, or I was wrong. Comes above all else.
Yeah, they will be. And I also, I actually think that that this shouldn't be happening to.
That's a very small number, if that's right.
It says over the last 5 years, there were at least 4,780 adolescents who started.
Whoopsie daisy. That's not good. So Matt Walsh just like confidently lied, is what you're telling me? Knock me over with the feather.
Puberty blockers and had a prior gender dysphoria diagnosis.
It says it's kind of undercounted, but that
would be a big
less than
undercounting.
1,000 people a year.
Yeah.
These people are so embarrassing. They are so embarrassing. How do they get up in the morning and sit down at their podcast mic knowing what they said the day before? I could never say something so f***ing stupid and just continue on like I didn't say it. I would have to acknowledge it or something, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess, hundreds of thousands at this point.
Well, you're f***ing wrong. It wasn't hundreds of thousands. Jesus, dude. It's so painful.
But I could be wrong.
You are wrong.
Million sounds great.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
The Media Matters will have fun with that clip.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh claims it was.
How many people have had?
It was a stupid thing to say. No one's having fun with this. They're disturbed by it. Anyway, the point is that people need to figure out how to not be so full of themselves that they can't see straight. They don't realize that they're wrong about literally everything on this subject. Jesus, dude. Let's continue with these poor fools here. Step back a little bit because I got sidetracked.
Parents, we need to be protecting our children from these harmful, sterilizing puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and permanent genital mutilation.
This is all nonsense. Not a problem that exists in society to any degree. Puberty blockers don't even do the things that she just listed anyway.
That's what gender affirming care is, not care at all. The idea that gender is fluid is evil, and it is a major initiative.
Okay, well, I mean, gender is linked to sex and is not fluid. However, sometimes with some people, it does turn out to be fluid. It's not like something that people can just pick up and put down the vast majority of the time. I don't understand. Like, imagine going to school and doing something like really, really like groundbreakingly different. Imagine going to school every single day and dressing up in like a full furry uniform. I mean, people wear tails and stuff to school. I used to know people like that. That's not the same as dressing in a full-blown fur suit in high school. Imagine people doing that, like every single day for the rest of their lives. People adopt the identity that matches their gender and carry it all the way through for their entire lives. If it's not like this, if it's not something that I'm deeply tied to, then I won't continue on with it. Like, a lot of people used to dye their hair blonde in, middle school. And they had to go through a long period, a long transition period where they didn't have blonde hair anymore. They had blonde roots, and it looked really bad. They had to actively make a decision to do something, and they knew that it was going to be difficult to do it. But they recognize it, it's not worth it to have blonde hair because it doesn't really matter that much. That's not what happens with trans people. They accept that they're trans, and it stays that way forever. That should tell you something, right? The rate of detransitioning is so infinitesimally small, it's ridiculous. But these people just want to be shitheads at the core of it.
Of the Biden administration. It's layered into each and every office, document, task force, and funding priority. Perhaps most commonly known are the changes to Title IX, giving institutions, schools control over children and their gender preference.
I'm sorry, they're doing what?
Working against parents, mandating.
Hold on. Let me step back a little bit, see what she's saying. I think I know what she's talking about.
Most commonly known are the changes to Title IX, giving institutions, schools control over children and their gender preference.
That's not what anybody is advocating for. That's not what's happening. Like, this is completely made up. You're telling me that you believe that schools have been given authority to change kids' gender against anyone else's wishes, even the kids? This is such a ridiculous claim that I don't know how anyone believes it. It's just wild to me. I don't know what Title IX is specifically. I know of it, but I don't remember the specifics. But I imagine what she's talking about here is the idea that kids can give a teacher like a nickname that they'd prefer to go by, and the teacher is not obligated to tell the parents if they don't want to, like, or if it's not like relevant or important or whatever. That's the difference here. So kids will pick a nickname that matches their gender identity more closely, and they'll just like use that in school. And Republicans, like from the Heritage Foundation, I believe they put in Project 2025 that teachers would be legally mandated to tell parents about their kids' like nickname or whatever. How is that small government? What happened to small government? The answer is they never cared about small government. They only care about it in as far as it can help them accomplish their goals of being shitheads. That's it. My gender is male, always was. Some bodies don't match one's gender at birth. I don't understand how people can't like get that. How people can't just get that people, have identities that they understand and that connect with them. And I get like it. They can't just like leave people alone and let them be who they are. They have to harass people and treat them like shit constantly. Like, get over yourself. Holy shit. Is this all you think about? People's junk? Really? My God.
Working against parents, mandating boys compete against girls. This is
Nobody is mandating that boys compete against girls. Are you shitting me right now?
all done with words. Words matter. Change the words, change the culture.
And that's what they're trying to do here. That's the whole point of this entire thing. Change the words, change the culture. Accusing the left of doing it and using that as a pretext to do it themselves. That is nuts. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.